Hello and good morning. How are you doing today? This is Adam Rona still, one more day. I don't know if I'm going to call this Zero to Hero anymore because, well, to be fair, this is less about the nitty gritty about trying to build a business and more just like the everyday life of a man in a car. So, whatever, fuck it. I'm not going to categorize it. I might still put it in the title, but it is what it is. So, almost done with the audiobook. Hooray! I'm in the last chapter, getting close to the halfway point of it, so I should be able to finish it tonight. When I last made a video, I was talking about, there's a gentleman who was highly influential of me, of different parts of my book. Joe Marcella, he was a guy who had his own book called Repeatlessness, and he does a whole bunch of lectures and stuff, and I had been following him for a little while. Well, I just reached out to him and said, hey, do you talk to people? Can I call you up and just ask you questions and stuff? And super cool guy. He had a couple of conversations with me. He even called me back a couple of days afterwards in case I had more questions, and it sounds like he's more than eager to possibly have ongoing conversations for the foreseeable future, I suppose. So that's kind of cool. Giving me a lot of leads into things for my book here. I mean, a lot of the stuff he's telling me is kind of stuff that I've known, but he is saying them to some degrees in which I wouldn't have considered, so that's very important, and some little data points that maybe I could go and further look into, like I knew about the importance of the intestines and how you have to clean them out to get rid of the mucoid plaque and so forth like that. But, he actually gave a specific product name that he figures would be the best one that he's found up to this point, among some other stuff as well. There we go. But today, I want to talk about, I'm going back and I'm just revisiting a lot of the stuff that I've been studying. He said he was part of a documentary back in the day called The Frequency of Genius. And I checked it out and I looked at the trailer, and that was a very young Dr. Joe Marcella compared to what he is nowadays. I mean, probably 20 years ago or something. I don't really know. But it's, they're talking about, I didn't actually see the thing yet because it wasn't available on YouTube like maybe I was hoping it would have been or something. But I looked at that and they're talking about things like, the vibrations and so forth, and resonance theory. I shouldn't really call it a theory so much, but, and a video that followed right after that was talking about sacred geometry. And, I wanted to say something on this idea. I've tried to talk to people about this countless times, about sacred geometry and about resonance and stuff. And on some level, people can understand it. I mean, you understand that when you project your voice, that is traveling through a medium which allows my sound waves to be able to be carried to your ears, which then can be interpreted and then, through electrical Jesus Christ. Through, electrical impulses and so forth, you're able to interpret that information, right? And that's very easy to understand. Maybe not so as apparent, but things like light and colors and so forth, those are also on a frequency. Those are emitting in such a way where the eye can interpret them and determine what color they are. But it's all based around frequency. And if you want to get more specific, when you have frequencies, you've got to consider the idea of resonance. And I know Joe was always talking about his example in his books and lectures is always about if you have two guitar strings and you pluck them, or you pluck one of them, the other one's going to vibrate because they're both tuned to a certain frequency. Well, very much so. That's kind of how everything in this world is, down to every molecule. So your body is tuned for a certain frequency, which it will resonate with. That's kind of like where you go back to the comedic brown note, right? Like where there's a frequency that makes you shit yourself, which is a real thing. It's I know it's made jokes of, but there really is a note in which if you resonate that tone, then your bowels will loosen and you'll shit yourself. Because every organ in your body has a certain frequency, and when you match that frequency, it will start vibrating. So this is how some people are able to sing a high-pitched note and then make it so the glass will break, right? It's because they're tuning into the same frequency it's designed to be affected by, or it affects. And because you're able to tune into that frequency, you're able to alter it, right? So why is this all relevant? Well, there's a little bit more subtleties that you might not consider at first, and this gets more into like sacred geometry and things like this, where nothing on this planet is inert. You know, you have a tuning fork, it doesn't do anything on its own, but when you hit it, it creates a frequency. When you hit something that's identical to it, it will vibrate as a result because it is also the same frequency that's being produced by the other one. However, other than just being able to be vibrated, there are a lot of other things to consider with just sound alone, for one, not even mentioning like light energy and so forth. But there's a lot of things to consider just by that interaction, right? So what do I mean by this? Well, a lot of, we'll call them ancient societies, you know, when there's a will, there's a way. You find different ways to make the elements around you benefit you. And one of these ways is, I don't remember exactly what culture this was. I very vaguely remember the stories. But, you know, several accounts, this was a real thing. You can use sound to levitate objects, right? I mean, and it's not that hard to think, because we have enough force, you're able to make something go on a blanket of, we'll call it sound. I mean, it's not really how that works. But, so you gotta think that certain things are designed in such a way where they amplify frequencies or they can diminish them. So you've got these rooms that have these foam pieces into them. I don't remember what they're called, but there's certain kind of chambers that actually have negative decibels for the, the rooms are considered to be in negative decibels, meaning that when you say something, there's no echo whatsoever. And it's actually less sound reflection than, I mean, the number 0 is just really just a made-up number. You know, the only reason it can be a negative decibel per se is just because somebody settled on a certain number and they call that 0, and then so forth and so forth. But just the same, you know, like a megaphone, right? Like you've got that cone shape, right? So if you use a funnel and you speak, you can amplify the sound. Now, it's the principles that allow that to happen are very simple. All you're doing is, when you think of it in terms of a wave, all you're doing is allowing it to, I don't want to say you make them bigger. That's not exactly, I don't want to go down that route, because I don't think that's, what the hell is that? It's a weird ass bug just hanging out in my car. It's, I don't know. I don't want to get into that because I'm not like a master at like sound. I'm not like a sound engineer or anything, and I don't know if I can really talk on behalf of that. I understand it, but I can't explain it to that level. But the idea is you can affect the sound. Well, you can also do this with light, right? You've got like prisms and other stuff like that, and you can affect light energy in a way where you can refract it, deflect it, or amplify it. Like, that's a thing. So when you consider these tools have the ability to take a frequency and change the output by either being lower or higher, you have to start thinking of start thinking of more elaborate systems where you've got multiple of these tools and they're all in series. And then as they interact with one another, you're able to create very dynamic interactions with that energy. So this is where we start getting into like stuff like maybe sacred geometry and some other shit. Because objects that have a particular shape are going to interact with their environment differently, right? So you've got like constant energy surrounding you, and in forms of photons, there's always like sound in some level being reverberated from whatever the hell. Things are vibrating at certain frequencies. Well, there's constant interactions, and when you've got certain shapes constantly amplifying signals or getting rid of signals, then you can do some really amazing things. Some of those things like I was talking about is, in other cultures and so forth, they had, they were using it to like lift rocks with like levitation and stuff. But more importantly, like the resonation of your body and creating energy. We're talking about like creating energy here. Or maybe not creating energy, but being able to harness it in a usable form. And you've got like these little trinkets and stuff that you can wear that will, help protect you from certain frequencies and so forth like that. But the principles that those work behind are no more far-fetched than kind of like what I'm talking about. Things are not inert. They have a structure, and depending on their composition and their shape can change how they interact with things. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit more, but I'm running out of time, so I don't know, just keep that in mind for now.